Welcome back to the URM Academy YouTube channel where we help you kick ass at mixing. I've got some cool stuff for you guys today. I'm Joey Sturgis. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and smash that bell button to get notified whenever we put up another great video for you guys. In this video, we're walking through a mix I did on the Vesta Collide song titled 7. In this song, I used augmented stereo snare room sounds to add power and width to the overall snare sound. This clip comes from a full Nail the Mix live stream session where you download the same files as me and learn from me by watching as I mix the song from start to finish. Now for all you guys out there that absolutely hate drum editing and drum samples and all that stuff, just remember this is just one technique that achieves a certain type of sound, and knowing many different techniques allows you to become a better mixer in all types of scenarios. You never know when it might come in handy. Now there's a lot to cover here, so let's jump into the video. Next step is 4 stereo tracks. And why are we doing that? Because we're going to have a snare room. Snare room crack, snare room hard, snare room medium, snare room soft. Take everything we just did and we're going to go up to edit and we're going to turn on automation follows events, right?
So, some guys are asking about flams, like intentional and non-intentional flams.
Okay,
like
so
because since you're about to do rooms and stuff, if they clash with the rooms ever, and how you deal with that.
Let me cover flams altogether. So the song starts with a flam, right? Let's hear it. So the way I like to do flams, I don't care if you agree with me or not. I've had this argument with so many drummers.
It's your method.
This is how I do it, so I'm gonna show you. You can agree and you can disagree, whatever you want. I think flams, the first hit's the loudest. I've had drummers tell me it's not. They've said, no, when I play a flam, the first hit's the softest and the second hit's the loudest. I don't care. If you want to sound like me, this is how I do it. So the first hit is the loudest hit, second hit is just one level below that. I've always done it that way. Another thing I like to do that I've found is the 30-second triplet. Most of the time, for most tempos, is a nice little place to put flams. If you've got a drummer who's inconsistent with how close or how far apart those flams are and you need to kind of go in and correct them. If you're doing like total replacement, you're not doing any phase line stuff, 30-second triplet notes sound like a flam to me. However, on this song, drummer's good, editing's good. We're going to keep the original flam timings. I think that's a 30-second note. Yep. So that's a little bit of a spacier flam. I like that. It's a little thicker. Right? Sounds cool like that. And it'll line up with our room tracks. I always just do it like this. First hit hard, second hit medium. And then we're about to create the room versions of all this, right? And that's really important when you get to the room sampler, because if you have 2 hard hits happening right next to each other, it's going to be way too much. It's going to be overkill in the rooms. So sometimes what I might do is, let's say that this was already here, and because we had dragged all of our snare hits down to the room tracks, I might even go in and grab all the flams and just do this, just to take it 1 notch down, because it's just so intense. But you'll see that in a second. We're about to cover that in a second. So the important thing to note is what we're about to do, we need all of the little tiny things that we did, like, for example, like we had these little automation things. We want all that stuff to be copied into the room. So I'm going to go to Edit and turn on Automation Follows Events. You have to have that turned on before you do this, or it won't copy the automation. So Automation Follows Events, grab all of our events. I'm going to do Control-C, and then click on this top track and do Alt-V, and that does paste in place. So it's not going to move it left or right, it's just going to move it down. And then if we go in and look, if we turn automation on, we can see our automation points copied over, and we're going to turn that on for all these tracks here so that it will obey the original automation that we did. Now, I'll always go in and just double check to make sure there's nothing really goofy about this, like the fact that it's really loud and then goes quiet suddenly. Not really, we don't really need that at all. However, we want that to happen on this one because this hit is going to be full volume, and then this one's going to be quiet. So I just kind of double check the automation, make sure nothing stupid's going on there. Cool. So that's all done. Yeah. I'm going to turn that mode back off, and I'm going to hide all my automation. And now we're just looking at the snares. And then we have to set up our snare samples. So let's go into the mixer, just copy and paste the Drumagog instance, go in, change the Z level to 4, choose our samples. Actually, I'm going to use a different snare room. I don't like that snare room.
So people are wondering what your opinion is on where on the grid the flam hits go.
Well, like I said a little bit earlier, so I would keep it with what the drummer did, but if the drummer isn't doing it, if the drummer's kind of screwing it up and the editor didn't do anything about it and you're kind of just stuck with what it is, then I would do like either 30-second notes or 30-second triplets. Is that what they're asking?
Yeah, they're just wanting you to tell them how to do it, and I agree with you. It depends on what the drummer meant to do. It's a musical thing,
and it'll also depend on the tempo.
Absolutely,
I could tell you 30-second triplets, but if you're doing songs in 250, it's going to sound stupid. So use your ears. All right, let's choose a good snare room. That sounds nice. I like that one. So we have all the same settings as we had for the original snare. So then we just choose our snare sounds. Copy and paste that over. And then choose the next level of samples. And you can see that this snare that I chose has more layers than the other one, but that's okay. Like there's 5 layers on this one and the other snare has 4. Not a big deal. We're just trying to create a room sound out of this. Sounds good so far. Let's check out the roll. Hopefully it's not a massive fail. Yeah, it is. All right. So let's just try turning this one down a little bit. Let's turn this one down too. Try it. This takes a little bit of experimentation to get right because we're using a room that wasn't really designed for that snare. Sounds a little better. The other thing I could do, if I really cared a lot, I could go in and maybe change, like on the soft layer, I could go in and maybe use this bottom layer of samples. Maybe that sounds better. Like let me actually try that. Yeah, so that's way better. This goes back to like why are we doing this? Because you have that level of control, right? You can go in and say every time the soft hits are happening in the song, I just want to use a completely different sample. Or I want to just limit all the soft hits to only 2 hits. Or I don't even want to use snare 13 Z4 for the soft hits. Maybe you don't even want a room mic on those hits. You can just turn that track off. now you just created a tighter drum sound just by not even using room samples on that hit. Or you can change the volume of it or whatever. So it's just an extra layer of control over everything, which I prefer when I'm mixing.